Today we're talking about the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera. Welcome back to Southern Utah Community Film Studio. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Mike Crockett, and I've decided that since I'm pretty much up to my armpits in video equipment, I figured I might as well share some of it with you guys and talk to you about what I use. Today I'd like to talk about the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera. I got this camera back in July, I think, and so I've been using it for a few months, and overall I like the camera. But there are a few things that one has to be considerate of when using this camera or when considering this camera for purchase. So let's talk about that. This camera uses a micro four thirds lens mount. On this particular camera I have an Olympus 40 to 150 millimeter lens, micro four thirds. You can get from a number of manufacturers adapters that will allow you to mount other types of lenses. Most notably, Metabones has developed a speed booster / lens adapter that will allow you to mount, say, a Nikon lens or a Canon EF mount lens specifically to this camera. Now this camera has a Super 16 millimeter image sensor. So what that means is that it's got a crop factor of about 2.5 times what you would see from a full frame or a 35 millimeter sensor. But as I said before, Metabones has developed a speed booster specifically for this camera that will significantly reduce that crop factor. Also, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera has a 1/4" 20 screw mount on top of it. On top of mine, I have a wooden camera mount so I can put my lav mic receivers on top of it. Now we can talk about the technical specs, but you can go anywhere to find that. So I'm mostly going to talk about the things that I like and dislike about this camera. For starters, there's the fact that you can record cinema DNG RAW directly into the camera. This gives you a lot of flexibility when color grading in post. You also have the ability to record Apple ProRes 422, once again directly into the camera. Both formats afford you 13 stops of dynamic range and frame rates between 23.98 and 30 at 1080 resolution. But no matter how you shoot with this camera, be sure you have a fast and very large memory card. The high bitrate will quickly fill up an SD card. With a 128GB memory card shooting in RAW, I get just over 30 minutes of record time, just over 2 hours in ProRes 422. ISO ranges between 200 and 1600, although it shoots best at its native ISO of 800. And like most any camera, if you're going to shoot outside in bright sunlight, you better have an ND filter on the lens to decrease the amount of light that enters into the lens. There is an iris button near the display. This button allows the camera to automatically open or stop down the iris to get the best exposure. However, this feature does not always give you the best result. Unfortunately, the screen is also somewhat dim, making it harder to judge if you have the proper exposure or not. There is a micro HDMI port to which you can connect an external monitor to help you with your exposure. Speaking of the screen, it is not a touch screen. While you have the ability to add metadata to your video files, you're reduced to hunting and pecking at keys on an on-screen QWERTY keyboard using the directional arrows and OK button. Next to the iris button is a focus button. This button will cause the camera to try to automatically find the best focus if your lens is capable of autofocus. I say try because sometimes this is not as effective as one would like. Thankfully, pressing the focus button twice in rapid succession will enable your focus assist, highlighting in green everything that is in focus. The camera does not have a continuous autofocus feature, so it will not follow focus if your subject is moving from the background to the foreground, or vice versa. The small form factor is nice, as it allows you to take the camera where any large cinema type camera would not normally be permitted, simply because it just looks like a point and shoot still camera. But because of its light weight, it's harder to get a steady shot when going handheld. Although raw images tend to look flat or washed out, you can download DaVinci Resolve Lite for free from Blackmagic Design's website, which allows you to do extensive color grading as well as add a LUT to your video to bring out all of the detail in the image. If you'll be shooting where you won't be able to plug the camera into external power, be sure that you bring plenty of extra batteries. Depending on how you use the camera, you may only get 30 to 40 minutes of operation time on a full charge. The good news is that the batteries for the Pocket Cinema Camera are fairly inexpensive. Right now, they're going for about $15 on B&H. And that's it for today. I apologize for not having uploaded any videos over the last, several weeks. As you know, I am a filmmaker and I am currently working on a film, and so that takes up a lot of my time. But since I had a break this week, I wanted to give you guys a little something. But don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you again right here on SUCFS.